Hey YouTube, I am back. So I'm going to do another October haul. So this will be my second haul for the month. I got sucked into buying books again. I will let you know how I accumulated so many books. Alright, so the first book set I have is the actual March Trilogy again. I don't know if you watched my earlier, I think it was my October TBR or something like that. Basically, my aunt ordered this set for me for my birthday, and it literally took 6 weeks to arrive. So yeah, if you can get your hands on this box set, I suggest you do so. If you watch my October wrap up, which I'm putting out before this one, you will know that I have already read this set. So what I'm going to do is give my aunt these 3 books, and I'm going to keep the box since that's what I really wanted anyways, even though of course I wanted the books, but I definitely wanted the box just because, yeah, I just wanted the box and wanted all 3 to put them in. And look at John Lewis, isn't he cute, like in cartoon form? All right. Let's move on. And she got that from Amazon. Hopefully you can see if it's still on there. One of the problems with this and why it took so long to come is because she ordered it September 4th. It came out September 6th, and that same day it was sold out or temporarily out of stock, whatever. So that is why it took long for it to come. She said it did not charge her until they gave her a notification that it was going to ship. Alright, so my next book, I ended up having some book credits at work. And what I like to do with my book credits at work, which is basically store credit, I like to get books that are more expensive. And so I had some where I was able to afford Behold the Dreamers by Mbolo Boy. I wanted to get this book when it first came out, but I just decided to hold off on it. I've heard great reviews. I can't remember. I was thinking about this or The Association of Small Bombs. This had a bit of a better review on Goodreads, and it wasn't as expensive as Association of Small Bombs. That one's out in paperback now, so I'm probably going to eventually pick that one up and just pay cash for it unless I get some more credits, and I can't find anything that's more expensive. So I don't know when I'll be reading this one, and there's something like... The only thing about matte covers is that they get stained so easily. Like if you have any oils on your fingers, they get stained. So there's like something on this cover and it's bothering me. But anyways, I am happy to finally have this. I like that I am supporting a author of color. I don't have to pay for it, but somehow the book will be paid for by my job. Alright, so... and it's not too special naked, but there you go. Okay, so this third book I picked up with my own money. I was inspired by reading Swing Time. So when I mentioned Swing Time and that how great it was, everyone said, oh, you need to read White Teeth. So I picked up White Teeth by Sadie Smith. I have heard nothing but good reviews about this book. One of my coworkers said he thinks it's one of the best books written in the English language ever, if not the best book written in the English language. So I do not regret buying this book at all. I don't know exactly when I'll be reading it, but hopefully soon. I think in the coming months I'm going to be reading some lighter reads. I've been feeling very stressed out lately. I've actually been doing a lot of coloring to kind of like balance my stress, and then I'll go back to reading. But I've been reading actually a lot of young adult novels to kind of help me feel less stress and more relief. My brain doesn't necessarily like hurt after I read those novels, or I don't feel like emotionally drained. So I will move forward. And my next book I was inspired by buying from the YouTube channel Browngirlreading. DiDi over there suggested The Arab of the Future. Her copy is in French, and she just got the 3rd installment. I picked up the first, I don't know why I was going to say 4th. I picked up the first book out of, I guess, the series, and it was on the remainder table. I don't think that actually has anything to do with how good this novel is. Well, it's actually a graphic novel. Kind of dealing with like remainders at my main bookstore. It doesn't necessarily mean the novel is bad. Usually it means they have another edition coming in or something of that nature. So if there's a 2 or 3 coming out, they might have had more than they needed of these to make space for the other editions coming out. Who knows? But I trust DiDi's opinion, and I'm actually looking forward to reading this. I haven't read a good graphic novel in a while. That's a lie. I just read a March series. Never mind. Alright, so my next book is actually another trilogy. It is the Inheritance Trilogy by N.K. Jemison. There was this BuzzFeed article that talked about new like science fiction and fantasy. I can't remember if it focused on people of color, but there was a lot of women of color on this list. And I found N.K. Jemison. This is a fantasy trilogy. This is the omnibus, I guess. Ugh, I don't know. I don't like that word. But I picked this. It came into my store, and so I just grabbed it. I let it sit for like a week. I'm like, I shouldn't buy this. I should really save my money. And I just, my dad gave me some birthday money pretty late, but nonetheless, he gave it to me. And I was like, I'm picking this up. So I might get to this sooner than later. I feel like this might be another light read. Who knows? I did want to get more into fantasy, so I decided to pick this instead of Game of Thrones. Maybe eventually I'll read Game of Thrones, but I'm not so sure. What do you guys think? Should I read Game of Thrones first, then watch the show, or should I just watch the show and maybe read the books? Let me know in the comments. So I'm excited about this. You guys know how I love supporting Black women and women of color. So this was right up my alley. And let me bring up the rest of the books off the first. Oh. So this next book I also got off of the remainder table at my job, which is Linden Hills by Gloria Naylor. She passed away earlier this month. She has this book. She's known for The Women of Brewster's Place, Mama Day, and Bailey's Cafe. So when I saw this, I just ran across it. I decided to pick it up. Might be that a new edition's coming out. I don't know. But she's a well-renowned Black author. And I'm glad to finally have something by her. The next thing I picked up was Elena Ferrante's The Days of Abandonment. And this is about a couple, I think a day or two after the narrator's husband decides to leave her and ask for a divorce or something like that. I saw Belinda mention that she picked this up in a haul on Belinda's Book Nook. So I thought, why not? I still have the Neapolitan series by Elena Ferrante to read. I think I'm going to get to this soon and her book soon, because I feel like her books might be on the, they might not be fluffy for most, but they kind of fluffy for me in their content. If it's, to be honest, if something is not social justice oriented, I tend to put it in the fluffy category. That might not be a great way to describe her novels or other people's novels, but yeah, if I don't feel like I have to get a pen sticky note out, then it's a lighter read for me. So I'll be reading that as well. What's the next thing? Okay, I think those are the only books. I think those are the last books I got from my bookstore. The next books, I think, actually, no, I lied. The next book I got from my store too, and it's called Spectacle, An Astonishing Life of Ota Benga. So he was a Black boy who was stolen from his family and put in the Brooklyn, was it Brooklyn prison? I mean, not Brooklyn prison. The Bronx Zoo in 1906. There is also this other book about these two black twins. I think they were like in the UK, who were also stolen from their family and put in like the circus or the freak show. And while I was thinking about that book, I ran across this book. And I'm kind of irritated because I picked this up and then a week later they had this downstairs as a remainder, and I could have gotten it so much cheaper. So it makes me a little bit irritated, but nonetheless, I'm excited to pick this book up. I don't think I'll be getting to it anytime soon because, of course, you can tell this is definitely going to be a heavy read. And I think she was up for an award for writing this as well. It's by Pamela Newkirk. So, yeah. So all the books I have next are from library sales. And there was one Saturday where I went to a DC public library sale. And then on my way home, there was another library sale going on in front of a different library that wasn't necessarily a DC library. So anywho, I pretty much picked up books I already had for really cheap. So my first one is Dora. I really enjoyed reading this. I read this in college. This is about like a lineage of women. So this doesn't have a subscription description on the back, but what I remember it was about a family lineage of women. They had this. If you've read Dora already, I'm getting a little tongue tied on how to explain. They had a serious like trouble with men, which turned violent a lot, and that's the best way to put it. I suggest that you kind of go look and see how they describe this book. I don't think they necessarily tell you what exactly happens. I will say this is not for young readers. If you're a parent, I don't think your child will necessarily go towards this book, but there are some themes that I definitely don't think are appropriate for children or teens unless you're a parent who likes to guide your teen in their reading. If you read this first and think there's some things that you can explain to your child, then go for it. I'm all for that. But there are certain scenes in here that are definitely not for kids. The next book I already own as well, and this is Crick Crack by Edwidge Dandy Cat. I read this in college as well, and just like Dora, this book is all marked up from notes I took in college, so I needed another copy of this. I really enjoyed it, and there's one story in here specifically. I think it is Caroline's Wedding, but it's basically about mother and her two daughters, and they talk about like their father being dead and some other stuff kind of going on. I remember one of the daughters was missing like the lower half of her arm or whatever, and I don't know, that story was just really good and interesting. I really love Edwidge Dandy Cat. One of my favorite writings of hers is in The Fire This Time, a book that came out this summer. Her essay, A Message to Her Daughters, oh, it was so good, you guys. It was such a great way to close that essay collection. Please check it out. And the next book I don't own, but I have seen this movie, and that is Like Water for Chocolate, a novel in monthly installments with recipes, romances, and home remedies. So back when Hulu first was a thing, like it first came out, I don't know how it works now, but you didn't have to buy a subscription. They had like free movies on there, and this was one of the free movies. All those movies weren't really good, and they were kind of weird, but this is one that I ran across, and I thought it was interesting. So what happens is the main character in this book, she can kind of cook her emotions in food, and you kind of go through that story. It is a novel of magical realism, and I think that is what made it really popular. So I'm excited to read this one. I wasn't sure how to take the idea of that I'd be reading this through like ingredients and stuff. It was kind of weird. I was like, is this a novel? But it definitely is a novel. The next book I already own in paperback and also has way too many highlighting and stuff for me to read. And it is 1,000 Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. Not one of mine, but this is my favorite book by him. If you watch my September wrap-up video, you know that I did not like his most recent novel. This kind of is stained, but that's okay. I don't plan on reading it anytime soon. Ooh, and somebody left a bookmark in here. Okay, but I did just kind of want this for my shelf. It's a decent, hardback cover, and it was only like $2, so I couldn't pass it up. And the next one I also was inspired to pick up due to watching Brown Girl Reading, and DiDi had just recently picked up The Wedding by Dorothy West. I didn't know about Dorothy West until watching DiDi's video, and so when I saw this, I decided to pick it up. The author is one of the last living authors from the Harlem Renaissance era, and let's read what this is about really quick. On the island of Martha's Vineyard, a very special community has flourished since the turn of the century. An exclusive summer colony of affluent vacationers. A proud, insular, nearly unassailable group is made up of the best and brightest of America's black middle class. A world of doctors and ministers and lawyers and college presidents. It represents a side of black excellence known by too few, a side that is seldom considered. It is a world Dorothy West knows well, for it is her world, and in The Wedding, she brings it to wonderful life. That probably isn't actually the description of the book, but that's good enough for right now. I just recently found out the significance of Martha's Vineyard for black people going to the African American Museum. I don't know too many people who go to like Martha's Vineyard, but there was this one girl I grew up with, and I remember her always talking about going to Martha's Vineyard as a vacation, but I mean, I was like in the 3rd grade. I wasn't really thinking about it. So, and my last and final novel is again by Gloria Naylor, which is Bailey's Cafe. I've run across a lot of these within the library book sale. Hopefully they're just getting new copies, and that's what I think is happening, especially with her death. A lot of times people like to go back and add prefaces or like notes in the front of the book talking about how important certain things are. So I picked up this copy. I kind of wish I saw another more recent copy later in the day, and I kind of wish I got that one instead. But I'm excited to read this one. This also doesn't have a blurb on the back, and I can't remember exactly what this is about. So you'll be just as surprised as I am when I read this novel. Alright, so that is my book haul. It actually isn't as long as I thought it would be, which is always a good thing. Let me know if you own any of these books, plan on picking up any of these books, or if there are any books that I should pick up. I think what I want to start doing is maybe reading a book or two that people suggest to me and kind of letting you know my thoughts, or maybe doing a review on it or something like that. I think that would be fun and interesting. So let me know below, are there any books that I should pick up? And if there is one book that particularly stands out amongst the others, I can go pick that one up and read it for you guys, or read it with you guys. Alright, until next time, bye YouTube.